Hello, everyone. Welcome to the SopranoCast. I am Nate Maxon, one of your hosts, and of course, I am joined as always by my associate, Mr. Archie Mitchell.
What's up, everybody?
Hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving. Sorry we've had a couple of weeks off here. We just have been busy, the holidays and things and life. Just life.
Yes, just life. And we do hope and wish that you guys had a happy Thanksgiving. That you and your guys had families had a chance to, enjoy each other, enjoy some food, some football, or whatever it is that you do. And we want to wish you a happy upcoming Christmas holiday season as well.
Yes, absolutely. And whatever you celebrate, just enjoy it. Just enjoy
exactly.
it. There's so much negativity and bad things in the world nowadays.
Yeah.
For our Thanksgiving this year, we actually did something, and my wife decided to do it just for this year. And I told her I want to actually do this every year now.
Okay.
What she did is she made breakfast. She made like a big ass breakfast, and then those of you that don't know, my wife's from the South, so the gravy's the homemade sausage gravy and the homemade biscuits and the ham and the baked apples and all of that. So we made a big old breakfast, told everybody come on over around 10 o'clock. So we had everybody in 10 o'clock. By 1 o'clock, everybody was gone. Damn. So for the rest of the day, it was me, the wife, the cats, and the dogs. I got to just lay around, watch TV, take naps. Perfect. So from now on at our house, it's breakfast for Thanksgiving.
I don't believe. See, we do that. We do Christmas Eve dinner, and then we do Christmas Day breakfast. So I like that. Yeah, it's a change. It doesn't always have to be a heavy turkey and stuffing and ham, and sometimes breakfast goes a long way. You know what I mean? So I enjoy it, and I think I might be coming to your house for breakfast next Thanksgiving because I love Southern breakfast. So I'll enjoy it.
You're invited, and then you can leave with my kids at 1 and go wherever they're going.
Perfect. I like it. Your kids are gonna be like, "Who's this old dude you're sending with us? What's going on here?"
I'd be like, "Just take care of them." You know what I'm saying?
Right. Take care of
them. This week on the show, we are discussing season 1, episode 10. The title of the episode is "A Hit is a Hit." There are some different double entendres for that one. There's a couple of reasons it is that this is the name of the episode. It aired on March 14th, 1999. And I have to say, before we start, there are no bad episodes of The Sopranos.
No.
I just want to put that out there. It's one of my favorite television shows of all time.
Well, the Johnny Cakes episodes are a little rough, but they're still passable.
Well, and here's what I'm saying. It's kind of like when you say like one of my favorite bands is Evanescence.
Okay, right.
I would never say there's a bad Evanescence song.
Right.
But there are Evanescence songs. When it compared to other people's music, I would say their music is the best. But when I'm just comparing the Evanescence songs, you have to have those comparative too.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, I'm taking a long way to say this. This is actually, and again, it's great television. It's The Sopranos. It's always good. This is one of my least favorite episodes of The Sopranos.
I can understand why. There's a lot going on, but nothing really gets solved. It's like they just went around in a big damn circle from the minute the episode starts to the minute it ends. It leaves you scratching your head like, okay, where do we go from here?
Mm-hmm. And there is good stuff. There is good stuff in here, again, because it is The Sopranos. And I figured when I was watching this episode, I was like, I bet Archie likes this episode because it's a very Chris-heavy episode.
I do, but the reason I don't like it, all right, I'm gonna be really honest and transparent here. One of my least favorite characters on The Sopranos is Hesh.
Okay.
Because he seemed very snaky.
Mm-hmm.
He, as much as he helped Tony, he was always out for his bottom dollar when it really came down to it. Like when Junior taxed him, and then they got it down cheaper, and they whacked it up amongst the 5 bosses, the capos. Tony gave him back his money, and he never once said, no, please don't do it. He was expecting it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. When Tony borrowed later on in time, I won't give that much of a spoiler. When Tony borrows money from Hesh because he's becoming a degenerate gambler, Hesh starts hounding him for the money. It's like, I'm your friend, and you know I'm going to pay you. Right. You know what I mean? We've been friends for 30 years. You were friends with my dad for 20 years before that. How dare you make it seem like I'm a deadbeat? Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, you were expected to get your 50 grand back when we chopped it up between the bosses. You know what I mean? So,
right.
This having a lot to do with Hesh and his business outside of the mob. It's just not my favorite episode. I put it maybe in a top 20, but not in a top 10 or a top 5 even.
The main stories that we have going, we do have some stories weaving through this. It's almost like, I guess what I want to say is it doesn't, like you said, it doesn't really advance any of the story. It's kind of like its own standalone episode.
It's like they were trying to offshoot other stories, like Adriana, Hesh, Tony not being that involved in the company business that much anymore. Mm-hmm. He was trying to pull back already. So yeah, they were trying to give you other things because they didn't want to really advance the story just yet because we're only 3 episodes out from the finale of this season.
Right.
So yeah, it was busy work. Mm-hmm. We'll do this until we get to that. So,
well, we open the episode with Chris and Paulie posing as delivery guys.
Yes.
And well, of course they're posing, and they find themselves kind of in the lap of luxury here.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. And yeah, they're in a Colombian drug dealer's drug den, and they were as the Tony's words when he's explaining this, it's that once in a lifetime score that they've been waiting for.
Mm-hmm.
And how many times have we heard this in mob shows or mob movies like Goodfellas and Casino? You wait for a score like this because you know it's money that's going to change your life.
Right.
So
yes. And I think that deep down inside, maybe not Paulie Walnuts, but I think deep down inside, anybody that does what Tony or Chris do to make their living, deep down inside in the back of their mind, they're always looking for, like you said, especially the big score that could possibly get them out of it.
Right.
Because it seems like being in the mob or being in the mafia would be a stressful fucking life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's lots of money and there's not lots of accoutrements and stuff, but there is a price to pay for it.
Oh yeah, you could end up dead, in jail, kidnapped if they really want it. You know what I mean? You never know what's about to happen. So of course. Mm-hmm.
But yes, the guys like Archie said, the guys score the money from the Colombians, and
my favorite scene in this whole part is when they're looking for the money and they can't find it, and then it's like such a hidden moment when they just there it is, and their eyes open up like children in a candy store.
It's like
there it is.
It's like when they finally get to, we don't get to see it, but when they finally get to see what's in the briefcase in Pulp Fiction.
Right. Exactly. Everybody's eyes perked up and it's like, okay. Because they were getting ready to leave with just what was on the table. Like you said, there was going to be more here. And yeah. And then all of a sudden it's, wait, we're here. Okay, good. Here it is. Let's go. And they call Tony and they're all happy and everybody's, celebrating, and it's just like, okay, let's go. We were off to the races quick.
And when in the time that Paulie makes the call to Tony, Tony's actually in his kitchen.
Right.
With we're introduced to Dr. Cusimano, who is Tony's neighbor, who is played by character actor Robert Lupone. And I had to look him up and the reason I did was because I just remember in the 80s and 90s, especially in TV shows.
Yep.
This is one of those guys that was in so much stuff. A great character actor, but I don't know his name. There are so many of those people, you know their face, but you don't know their name.
Right. And he was like you mentioned, he's a character actor. I've seen him on improv coming before, and I've seen him in serious movies and serious TV shows. Which is the face that sticks out to you when you're an TV and movie watcher. But again, you just don't know the name. So thank you for telling me his name, Mr. Max.
Yes, and unfortunately, it looks like here, according to IMDb, he passed away last year.
Oh, well, that's not good.
So rest in peace, Robert Lupone. Glad we finally know your name.
Yes, yes.
But yeah, Tony and Dr. Cusimano were in the kitchen at Tony's house. Tony gives him a box of cigars. Of course, we get the whole Tony, these are illegal, blah blah blah, because this is going to develop as the show goes on and actually lead to a great punchline at the end.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, so essentially this is just Tony talking to, I guess you'd say, quote unquote, a legit guy, you know, right. and the doctor tells Tony he should come to his club to play golf, because Tony mentions that he just plays at the public club. He doesn't play at any of the private clubs.
Which is odd, because we later find out Tony is a member at a country club in New Jersey because of the sanitation business that he's a part of.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that he doesn't use that to his means to an end. If I was a member of a country club, shit, I'd play it every day.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And to be honest with you, that's probably one of those things that later on down the line, when they were writing the script, they just kind of ignored the script from this episode. You notice that with TV shows sometimes, especially things that are in a first season, because the first season, as they're writing it, as they're producing it, they don't know if they're getting a second season.
Right.
You know, so they're not really trying to fine tune, well, what are we going to say in season 5?
Right.
You know?
Exactly.
So,
exactly.
Yeah. Like there's a few things this season that we are going to find out later on. They're going to kind of contradict themselves.
Oh yeah. And the Dr. Cusimano character is a really good character. He actually, you see him wanting to befriend Tony, but he also knows deep down inside Tony's a mob boss. You know, so he's a little bit afraid of him too. I'm kind of sad away from that character after we got other seasons in.
Right.
You know, because he was still living from Tony. So it just never made no sense why they drifted apart. You know, was it Tony's decision? Was it Cusimano's decision? What? You know?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think you're right, because the two actors have a good chemistry. The two characters have a good chemistry. And I think you could have, I guess I kind of agree with what you're saying, is you could have had a like that guy could have been throughout the show, maybe like, it sounds stupid, but it could have been like a Tim Allen,
like a voice of reason, you know.
Like every once in a while they meet at the fence, you know, and again, it's absolutely not the same thing, but Wilson from Home Improvement, you know, Cusimano could have been the guy that Tony he's kind of the normal guy that Tony is, straight guy.
Look, we all know, as it was said multiple times in this show, Tony had nothing but yes men around him, people who were never going to disagree with him. You know what I mean? So he kind of maybe needed that normal civilian to be like, hey, you know, Kuz, I'm kind of not feeling well, or my guys are not working. You know, not tell him he's in the mob, obviously, but you know, my workers at the sanitation place, they didn't do it too well, whatever. So that because you're messing up. You know, this, that, it's easy this way. It might have been a decent character in season 4 or 5.
Right.
You know, all, you know. So.
Well, we do get then, of course, the because they have fallen into some money, Chris has taken Adriana to a show.
Yes.
And they are okay. I do not know New York City other than what I've seen on television or what have you.
Right.
And I never will, because I don't ever want to go there. But I'm sorry, Archie, but the East Coast, like that part of the East Coast, I would come visit you.
Right.
But I would never, like, just, I don't know, man. The idea of that traffic and that the people and I don't know. It's just not.
Nate, nothing you've heard is a lie. It's all true. I have not been in New York City myself. In New York City, I've been to New York State. There's a difference. New York State, country area. New York City, ghetto. That's all I'm gonna say. But I haven't been there in maybe 2 years solid, and I thank God, because it's one of those things that, like you said, the traffic takes you over an hour to get even into the city. Not where you want to go, but like into where you're. Okay, I'm in New York City now. Okay, how far to our destination? Oh, about another hour and a half. Meanwhile, you're 4 blocks away. And the people are just nasty. You will never encounter a nice person in New York. If you do, run, because that means they're robbing you.
And just so everybody can tell that I'm equal opportunity, I also never have any desire to go to Los Angeles.
There it's fun. I've been there. It's
something
amazing.
A place like LA and a place like New York just does. Like I love Las Vegas, and Las Vegas is busy and everything, but it's just the sheer amount of people and the congestion. And here in Ohio, we have Dayton, Cincinnati, but I'm sure New York City is like Dayton, Cincinnati times 20.
Yes.
And when I have to go to Dayton and Cincinnati, I'm pretty fucking annoyed. So I can't imagine how I would feel in New York. But anyway, getting back to the show.
It's bad. That's all I'm going to say. And I have family that live in New York. I grew up in New York City. You know what I mean? I can remember being 10 years old, running down the streets of Manhattan and the Village and, crazy parts of Brooklyn and things like that with my buddies. But yeah, it's when you get older, you start to look at the city in a different way. It's a means to an end. Well, I want to see the tree at Rockefeller Center, so I'll just go there. Or I want to eat food on 52nd Street, I'll just go there.
Right.
You don't, when you go with a plan, you don't do anything else. You get in, you get out, and you're home. That's it. So,
but I guess my question originally, just because I said I don't know New York City, is because we see Chris and Aid at a fast food place,
right?
They want to get some burgers before they go to their show or what have you.
Mm-hmm.
And my question was, what part of the city was this supposed to be in? Do you know?
Harlem.
Okay. See, I figured, I kind of thought that because of obviously the African American population,
right. But that was not me being racist, though.
No, but they were also, since they were talking about going to a show, I didn't know if it was supposed to be set closer to Broadway, is what I'm saying.
No, they were not going to a Broadway play. They were going to a bar/nightclub called CBGB's, and I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it is in the 80s where all the punk bands started, like the Sex Pistols and, a lot of Sid Vicious and a lot of guys like that. So, but it's now in the 90s and the 2000s and whatnot, it's become a grunge band rock place. It's not really about punk, it's just everybody goes there. Okay. So they were going there. And the reason I again, this was not me being racist, ladies and gentlemen. Please don't think Archie's like, oh, he saw black people and he immediately thought it was Harlem. No, I have been to this burger place. I know exactly where it is. And it is on 142nd Street in Harlem. And CBGB's is in the deep part of the Village. And it's about, I want to say, 15 blocks away from this place. Okay. So they were probably either on foot or, taking cabs and whatnot. They ate at this burger place. And yes, it is that packed. It was not just that, those were not extras. They were really there while it was in the heart of everybody ordering at like 10:30 at night.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and they essentially the means to an end of this scene is so that they can meet a gangster rapper.
Yes, named Massive Genius.
Played by Bokeem Woodbine, making a special appearance.
Who was a fantastic actor at this time.
Oh yes, absolutely. Massive Genius.
Yes.
This was obviously a ripoff of Master G.
Either that or maybe
Master P. I meant Master P. I said Master G because I saw Master Genius. Right. Massive Genius. I thought Master P.
He might have been trying to be a lot of different gangster rappers at this time. I mean, he could have been a little bit of Snoop Dogg, a little bit of Master P. Master P was more of a hip hop, wearing jeans and grungy shirts. Right. You remember him in WCW.
Well, and the reason that I bumped on Master P at the time was because 99, 2000 was like the height of Master P's popularity.
Right.
So I was just wondering if the writers and producers of The Sopranos
it's a possibility
to capitalize on that,
It's a possibility. You never can tell. I mean, but I think they just went with we need a gangster looking guy, you know what I mean? So yeah, go with that name, but give him this more hard edge, I'm from the streets kind of attitude, you know what I mean?
Right.
The thing obviously they're waiting for a burger. There's 40 people in the restaurant. It's a small restaurant. Christopher gets racist, and he makes a really snide comment like, if I wanted to wait in line, I'd go to the DMV, not come to Showtime at the Apollo or something like that.
Right, yeah.
And everybody turns around looking to whip his ass because he's the only white guy in this burger place that's in Harlem. And then Master Genius is like, a lot of talk from a small man, and then he finds out he's from the Tony Soprano crew. And again, this is where Hesh is snaky to me, because this guy knows that Hesh is with the Tony Soprano crew. So now he's planning, I'm going to use Christopher to get to Hesh, who I really need to get to, because I need to shake him down. So,
Yeah, because the long and the short of it is, Chris and Adriana agree to meet with Massive Genius. I keep saying massive. I keep saying Master. It's Massive Genius. He's a massive genius. Right. Because back in the day, Hesh was part of the music scene when, I guess, you're kind of leaning toward, this is kind of taking a shot at, Sam Phillips and all those guys.
Right.
Motown, where the African American talent, not just in Motown.
Right.
They were making the music, they were putting on the show, but they were totally getting ripped off by the white people that were promoting them.
Oh yeah. And that's he doesn't tell Christopher that though. See, that's that Christopher was not dumb in any of this until he started speaking up and taking this guy's side. But if he would have told Christopher, like Hesh shows me money or whatever, Christopher probably would have went to Hesh like, I met a friend of yours, or something. Yeah. But he doesn't tell him that. So they went to a nightclub that Massive Genius is, I guess, an owner of or whatnot, and they drink with him. He's checking Adriana out the whole time, which is like, Christopher is in awe. He's not even realizing it at first. And they set up this date for him to meet Hesh and Tony.
Yes.
So, and the thing of it is that, and I get what, and I believe me, I agree what you're saying. In the 50s and 60s, these young 12, 13, 14-year-old kids were making music. They found representation. The representation was taking 80% of the payout, not giving them even enough money to live. But to now come 60 years later or 40 years later and be like, you owe this guy's money, this guy's money to his mother. His mother's still alive, but he's dead. It's like, why not just take him to court?
Right.
Why are we handling this outside of the court system then? You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I mean, I guess the long and short of it, if you ask the character if he was a real person, he'd probably just say he didn't want to have to pay the lawyers. But
right.
But yeah, that's going on. We find that out, and then we go to what is actually of the two storylines going on in this episode. The Tony storyline is my favorite of the two.
Oh yeah.
Tony's the Sopranos are invited to a barbecue with all the, I just wrote down here, the quote unquote straight people.
Right.
Even though when you really think about it, at the end of the day, are corporate America corporate guys really any less sleazy than a mobster?
No, they just don't. They just don't admit it. A mobster will at least tell you, "I'm crooked." I
actually, to be honest with you, I would respect a mafioso more than I would respect the CEO.
I agree.
Because when the mafioso tells me we are family, I believe him. When the CEO tells me we're a family, I'm like, fucking fuck off out of here.
Right.
I've worked in corporate America long enough for that we are family thing. I'm just like,
yeah,
whatever.
No, that basically means I need a favor.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When a mob boss tells you we're family, he's basically asking you, what can we do for you?
Right.
To
Yes,
help you
exactly.
want to stay here.
Look at that generosity.
Look, the corporate boss, when he says we're family, means what are you going to do for me?
Yes. What have you done for me lately? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Tony's at the barbecue, standing around with, like I said, the quote unquote straight guys. And a couple of them are talking about some mergers coming up in the stock market. And you can see and Gandolfini does a great job in this scene acting. He's always good acting, but in this scene, because I just love the spark in Tony's eye of, you can see that he's longing for something legitimate.
Right. And he's kind of hoping they're going to give him a lead, but they're being very coy. Sort of like he would be with his business. You know, like if somebody asks him, hey, how'd you make that 400,000? Oh, well, you know, a little bit of this, a little bit of, they're not giving him the exact answer he wants to tell him a stock name or a company or something where he could maybe invest and try to make some money off of it too.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So he's stuck. He's hearing things, but he's not able to learn anything.
He's not able to get the fucking information.
No. And they're kind of pussyfooting around him as well. You know what I mean? And that they want to ask him the really big questions of like, are you a mob boss? But they don't know how to go about it. They don't know, is this guy going to freak out? Is he going to kill us all? You know what I mean? And I'm more than sure Cusimano told them, look, don't embarrass me in front of my friend. You know, I like this guy. He's a good dude. He lives next door to me. And he's a mob boss. He might kill me. So please don't say anything out of the way.
Yes.
Which
and I actually
later on, but that's neither here nor there.
I actually have to apologize to Archie and the listeners, just because I jumped us ahead a little bit in the episode.
You're fine,
because on my notes I have written down that the Sopranos were invited to the barbecue. This is where Carmela says that they're invited to the barbecue. So about 20 minutes later is when they're at the barbecue. But anyway, whatever.
It's okay. You're fine.
The next thing we see, you know what I call Chris and Adriana?
What?
I call them the dreamers.
Oh, yeah.
Because these two kids always have a dream. One wants to be an actor or a script writer. The other one now, Adriana sees this as an opportunity to be in music management. She's got this ex-boyfriend that has a band that, by the way, really fucking stinks. But anyway,
bad.
God, the music in this episode is terrible.
I would have loved to have heard what he sounded like when he was on drugs, because apparently he was much better. But I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yes.
That's all they said. That's all they kept saying through that whole scene. He got clean. He got clean. He got clean. And then you hear him singing, you're like, well, maybe he didn't need to get clean.
But yeah, so Adriana's idea is that she wants Chris to set up a meeting with her, or to let Massive Genius hear this band, because she wants to get into music management and she wants to use him as a way to get her break.
And this made no sense to me, because at this time in the 90s, 99, rap moguls were not backing heavy metal bands.
Right.
So for her to think that he was going to be an in for her into the music world made no sense. I just never got, and he knows a lot of people. Yes, a lot of people in the rap business.
Mm-hmm.
He's not going to do anything for a grunge band or a heavy metal band or a punk band. And then on top of that, the guy sucked.
Yeah.
When it was all said and done. And she refused to admit it, because they hear she hears it being done live and it sucked. But then she hears it on a demo and she thinks it's even better. And then Christopher's like, I don't think this is any. Even Christopher understood. A guy who didn't understand music and didn't understand how it really doesn't sound good to me.
Yeah, it's the classic case of you're hearing what you want to hear.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And as the episode goes on, you can see this massive genius guy is just playing along because he wants to get in Adriana's pants, obviously.
Right. He wants to be in good with Christopher because he figures he could use Chris anytime he needs a meeting with somebody in Tony's crew. He wants to get in Adriana's pants. And he also knows that maybe if he needs a problem fixed, Christopher might be stupid enough to fall for it and do it.
Right.
You know, so he sees it as a, good relationship for himself, which honestly, truthfully, I think Christopher would have ended up killing this guy later on in time had they kept the character and went on longer, but you never can tell.
Right. So speaking of that, the next thing that we see, speaking of Massive Genius, is we now have our meeting with Massive Genius and Hesh. And of course, Massive Genius has his crew with him. And of course, Hesh has Tony's crew with him.
Right.
And the long and short of it is, like Archie kind of mentioned earlier, they believe that this, what is it? Jimmy Willis, I believe is the name they give it. Yes. That his mother, is it his mother?
Yes,
or his wife?
Mother. I believe it's Idella Willis is her name.
Okay.
That's a really piece of bad information to know.
Well, no, I was just going to say, I guess I missed it. I was like, did they say it was his mother or his wife? But
his mother.
Either way, they say that Hesh owes her $400,000 in reparations.
Right, because not only did he use Jimmy Willis during his career, but then he sampled some of Jimmy's songs later on other artists' albums. So you didn't just want your cake; you wanted to eat it too and laugh about it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yes. And I see on something like this, kind of situation, I see both sides.
Yes.
And the way I'll say I see both sides is, if Jimmy Willis was still alive, yes, I would say you owe him that money.
Yes, exactly.
Because he did the work. But if he's not alive anymore, I'm sorry, it's lost to time. It just is what it is.
I agree. Because here's the thing.
I've always said, and we don't really get political here. That's not what the point of the show. But I've always said about reparations for slavery. If someone, whenever they started demanding reparations for slavery, if someone would have been able to go out and find me someone that was actually a slave,
right,
that was alive, that had to live through that awful thing, I would say give them all the money that they earned. Give them all the money they deserve, and give them a little extra because they were demeaned and treated like an animal, and they deserve it.
Right.
But when you get to their great grandson or whatever,
exactly, it's not even their next of kin. It's so far removed that kid or that grandson or granddaughter or niece or nephew don't even know what slavery is.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that was one of my points. You need to pay his mom this money. Well, did his mother realize you were using his music, or did you? And you maybe get a taste of it once she gets her money. You know what I mean?
Right.
It just all smelled bad. And of course, Hesh didn't make it seem any better because, please, don't want to be upset. I'm not using this, and I'm going to say this in as politically correct as possible. Hesh is acting like a typical 90s Jewish person in that he's holding on to his money like it's the last thing he's got left on earth. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And this is wrong, and this is maybe he could have counter-offered, and said, look, I give you 150, or like you did with Junior. But he's like, nope, I owe them more than nothing. And they're like, well, then we're going to court. Well, you should have just went to court in the first place. You waited 30 years to come after $400,000. You know what I mean?
I agree.
Nate, if I got $100 left out in the wind, I'm going after it. I'm not going to wait 30 years to go after $400,000. You know what I mean? It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Like I said, I don't know. There's a lot of loopholes in this story, and I think that's why I'm not a big fan of it.
And it gets worse later on. We're going to get to that part later.
Yes, yes, we are.
It gets even stupider when we get to the ending of the episode. So and when we go back to Adriana and Chris. They're playing music producers and listening to this really shitty band. And the thing that I laughed at and did not, and he got pissed off at the same time, was the guy who's actually producing for them in the studio. Says, dude, you've got no chorus. It's just one hook after another.
Yes.
And I laughed hysterically because I'm like, damn, he's right. They just kept singing.
I've been thinking this since we started this episode.
Right. And then he comes back with, not everything is the Beatles. And I go, how ass backwards could you be? You're really going to question the Beatles?
Why would you not? Why would you not aspire to be the most successful band of all time?
Right. That's like saying not everything's Michael Jackson. Well, I'm sorry, it should be. You know, why would you go after the biggest kings in all of rock and roll? You know,
but this scene does result in the best line of the entire episode.
Oh yeah. And I bet I know which one you're going to say.
Because essentially what happens here is of course this guy's got a fucking attitude, and he's got an attitude with the producer. And Chris is pissed because essentially he's not in the wrong. He's saying we paid for this studio time,
right?
Because this guy's like, I got 5 days off of Kinko's, man,
right? And I got to get to an AA meeting, and I'm like,
right?
Really?
And yeah, Chris is pretty much telling him take some fucking drugs.
Chris hits him with a guitar.
Yes,
and best guitar shot since Jeff Jarrett's first one delivered.
And then in the best line of the entire episode, Chris says, take it from the top. And then he looks at the broken guitar and he goes, we'll use a ukulele.
Right. Exactly. Perfect. It was perfect. You know, he throws a bag of, I don't know if it was crystal meth, cocaine, or what. He's like, go in the bathroom, snort up, and come back out and go to work. And I'm like, you know what? Yeah, go do it. You got a chance to be making crazy money if you get signed and not work at Kinko's anymore.
Right.
You know? So, and of course, Adriana's pissed because this is my thing. I wanted to be the producer. And you know what? I don't know how Christopher didn't say to him, why didn't you realize this was crap?
Right.
You know, or something to that effect. He just, you know. So.
Okay. So the next thing that we see on the show is Dr. Melfi, and she is at a party at Dr. Cusimano's house.
Yes.
And of course, inevitably, as always happens when the people who are not in the Soprano family that know the Soprano family, when the Soprano family is not around, they are talking about the Soprano family.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And, you know, it wasn't so much Cusimano, and obviously Milty couldn't mention that it was a patient of hers because of, you know, confidentiality and all that. But the rest of the people at the table are talking serious shit. Even Cusimano's wife. You know what I mean? That, you know, how bad they are, and it's weird having them in the neighborhood, and it's like, what have they done? He didn't fire a bazooka off his roof at anybody's house. You know,
right?
It's like they're normal people when they're not, you know, having their normal, you know, when he's not at work. So,
and like I said, to me, the biggest thing is the hypocrisy of these, I guess, quote unquote, white collar, you know, especially these corporate guys. I don't know. I just being associated with corporate America for as long as I was sours me on people like this. And I'm sure there are just like any other thing. There's probably corporate executives out there that are perfectly nice people, but you know, they want to talk about how he does dirty business and everything. And, you know, each and every one of them also does dirty business in their own field. So
I believe it was Jesus who said, let he without sin cast the first stone. You know what I mean? Yes. And I hate to get religious, but it's the truth. You cannot be hypocritical like that and tell me he does dirty business and he's a mobster and he kills people. Well, you essentially you don't pull the trigger, but you essentially do the same thing on your day-to-day business.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, so.
And the is as a plot to Tony's house.
Right.
Restroom, because she wants to get a look at Tony's place.
Right. Right. So when you get a look at him, his family, or see what he does, and all she hears is screaming.
Yeah.
Because Tony's working out in the basement.
Yes, we find out later Tony's working out in the basement, and I think it's obviously it's a way to take out his frustrations.
Right.
After that, of course, then now she is talking to him in the office the next day, and like I was alluding to earlier, he's kind of talking about wanting to branch out,
right.
And you can kind of see he's the allure of legitimacy,
of course,
I guess, is what's getting to him.
Well, not having the cops at your house every week, or the FBI, having your money be able to be actually used and not worry if someone's going to question how you got it, not having people talk about you behind your back that you're a killer or a maniac or whatever, and also being accepted in public. Because again, where he went, which the only restaurant we ever really saw Tony eating at was Vesuvio, so that was his best friend's restaurant. The only places he would go were places that he knew the mob was accepted. So yeah, it would have been nice for him to be able to go to that country club and have a normal day, or go to dinner without worried somebody's going to walk in and start shooting me or something. Legitimacy would have brought him a breath of fresh air, as well as some mindset, a different mindset going through.
Yeah. I guess the worst thing about it is you're going to go legit, but they're never going to let you.
Well, yeah, but in some ways, him being the boss, he might have been able to afford himself a little more. He could have pushed away,
or leave the country.
Yeah. Right. But we heard it a million times. His lawyer tell him, pull back, name his successor, pull back. And he could have. For the most part, he could have been Joe Schmo.
Yeah.
But he was afraid of in today's world, it's known as FOMO, the fear of missing out. Well, he was afraid of missing out on something.
Yes.
So that's what he liked. Both worlds. He liked the straight guy world, and then he liked the mobster world. He wanted both. And you can't have both.
No, you can't have it all. You can't have your cake and eat it too, Tony.
Nope. And that's the thing of it too, though, because Milfy is essentially trying to explain this to him, but he's wrapped up in how nice Cusimano's friends were being to him at the barbecue that he was at. So he thinks they're accepting him.
And he's about to find out different.
Yeah. When he goes golfing with them, you literally see him go from this big bad mafioso to this little kid who's being teased almost.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Because
it's like he says in the
questions.
They ask him questions about how realistic is The Godfather.
Right.
They ask him if he knew John Gotti.
Right.
And then he obviously, with the way it's performed in the acting, the straw that breaks the camel's back for Tony, or the moment he realizes, I'm just, as he says in the office later with Melfi, a dancing fucking bear to these guys.
Right. Exactly.
Is the John Gotti thing and the ice cream truck.
Yep.
And then he proceeds to tell them a story that is obviously not true.
Right.
Because now it's Tony. And Tony, again, I say in every single episode of this show, one of my favorite things about Tony Soprano is his sense of humor and his sarcasm.
Yep. And it comes out through and through here.
Yes. When he tells the story about the ice cream truck and how John Gotti bought it out from underneath him or whatever, and then he gave him a ride home, and he rang that bell all the way home.
All the way home. Yep.
And these guys don't know whether he's telling the truth or not.
Well, it's almost like they're looking at him like, do you think we're schmucks? You know what I mean? Like, so he kind of got one up on them because they thought he was going to tell them some insider business dealings of, John Gotti did this and he killed this guy and he killed that guy. He's telling them about a Mr. Ice Cream Bar. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And that's like I said, that's one of my favorite aspects of his character.
Yep.
And then I gotta say, even though I know that we are 20 something years later and people are more sensitive about things or everything and all that, but man, I still laugh when he tells the cleft palate kid story.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
God, I laugh because essentially Tony is saying, there was a kid in school that had the cleft palate. He felt like, and him and his buddies would call him up or just have him hang out with them just because he amused them, as Tony felt at the golf course. And then when the laughs ran out, they stopped calling him.
Right.
And the punchline's funny, though, when he says, the guy wound up going up the river for armed robbery. And it was easy to figure out who it was. Give me the money.
Give me the money.
I don't care. I don't care if it's offensive or not. It's fucking funny.
No, it's hysterical. It's hysterical because who amongst us doesn't have a friend like that?
Yeah.
That's what it really comes down to. But yeah, he feels like he's been made out to be a fool. And I mean, obviously, him being Tony Soprano, he could have done it one of three ways. He could have either killed them all, he could have done something to harm them, in their households or their businesses, or he could have made them look like schmucks, which is what he did in the golf course. So, but yeah, I feel this was one of those moments where you really feel for him, and you see him as a legitimate person, in that he thought he was being accepted, and they really just wanted him there so they could find out all they could about the mob.
Yes.
So,
the other kind of key points. There's not a lot left to the episode, but we do find out that Massive Genius is going to sue Hesh, and Hesh calls him out on it and says, "Well, you in a song you did, not too long ago, you sampled this from this scene or from this. I'm sorry, you sampled yes." So he's going to countersue, and now we've gone from essentially what it is it's kind of funny because Tony was aspiring to get out of the what do I want to say, out of the confrontational thing of like gangsters and mobsters,
right,
into legitimacy. And this situation goes the other way because at first they were talking about, we might have to settle this with bloodshed. And now they're going to be settling it in a courtroom.
Yep. And as Massive Genius puts it, I've got a lawyer on retainer every day for $50,000. So he can afford to go through litigations.
Yes.
Which we never hear about this ever again. So I'm assuming that he lost. Hesh was able to get his point across.
And I was thinking about that when I was watching the episode. I was like, do they ever mention this again? Nope. Because in the scene where Hesh is listening to the music, they show those pictures of him and the lady, right? And it almost seems like he's reminiscing, like he may have had a relationship with her,
right? Exactly.
But I don't think that ever even gets addressed again either.
No, it
so
doesn't.
I don't know if they thought they had plans where they were going to continue with this or what. But again, and that's one of the things where I say this, it's kind of an inconsequential episode.
Yeah, like I said at the beginning, it was busy work because look, we still have 3 episodes left, and we don't know if we're being picked up yet. So if our finale is going to be our finale for everything, we got to make sure we time it perfectly. So let's give them these offshoot storylines to keep them busy for a week. They'll like them because some of them are humanizing. We give Tony a humanizing storyline. We give Christopher a chance to look like a big guy. We introduce Hesh more. So they'll be okay with it, but nothing is going to happen in the big grand scheme of it all.
Right. And then in the what I said earlier about a great punchline to end this episode, unless there was something else I missed that you wanted to mention.
Nope. You're good right now.
I love this, and again, this is Tony and his humor and his sarcasm. He comes into the kitchen, and Carmela's there, and he's got a package. Looks like it might have a box in it that what is it? Cigars? Is it a gun? Is it
right?
What's in this? And he says he's gonna take it over to Cusimano's house because when she says, "What's in that box?" he says, "Sand." I'm going to tell him to hold on to it for a while.
Yep.
Oh, I love it. I just love it.
It was his way of getting back at Cusimano because you set me up for these guys to prod me and pick on me. So now here, let me give you something you want. You want to be a part of the mob business? Here's this package. I need you to hold it for a little while, and I'll come get it. And again, we never get a resolution, but we do know that Cusimano was freaked out about it because the ending scene is him and his wife looking at this box, wondering, could there be a severed hand in it? Is it a gun? Right. Is it money? Is it drugs? It could have been a bomb. You know?
And I love the added, and there is a little kind of a slap in Tony's face because he asks about club membership, and all of a sudden the story is no, membership's closed until somebody dies or whatever. But I also
remember, it's a kind of a throwback because when Christopher says, "I want to get made," he tells him membership's closed right now.
Yeah.
So it kind of revolves back to that.
Mm-hmm. So. But I also did love the added thing of Tony just kind of extra fucking with him because Cusimano's like, how long? He's like, I don't know, maybe a month, maybe a longer.
Couple weeks, maybe a month, maybe longer.
Yeah, maybe not a month, maybe shorter than that. I don't know.
Right.
So this fucking guy's gonna have this box in his house for the rest of his life.
Right. Wondering, is today Tony Soprano knocks on my door and says, "Where's my box?" You know? I need that thing.
But overall, out of 5 stars, if I'm doing 5 stars or five lasagnas or whatever we're doing here,
I'm going with a 3 this week. It was middle of the road.
We are of the same mind. I also have 3 out of 5 because again, it's The Sopranos, so none of it is bad.
Right.
It's just if you're only comparing it against other episodes of The Sopranos.
Right.
It's not one of the best episodes.
Well, excuse me, we don't get to see Junior. We don't get to see Livia. We don't get to see what's going on there. We don't know what's going on with the indictments anymore. If anybody's going to still get, ran into jail or whatnot. Paulie and Big Pussy and Sylvia are only in the episode for like 4 minutes. So yeah, this is an out of the normal realm. Still good, but out of the normal realm of what we're used to with The Sopranos. And we'll get more episodes like this. Yes. But this one definitely seemed like they were like, look, we only got enough ideas for 3 episodes and we got 4 left to do. So let's just do what we got to do to get through it.
We just got to spin our wheels for a week. And,
right.
Now, what I will say before we sign off is next week is a completely different story.
Oh, yeah. Next week is the big one.
Next week is a fantastic episode. Nobody Knows Anything is the name of the episode, and we will talk about it next week. But there is a lot of really, really good stuff in the next episode as we head toward the season 1 finale.
In my opinion, the next episode is what the rest of the series is built on.
Yes,
because
absolutely,
you truly get your first step into understanding how crazy the mob and the Soprano family really are.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
So, Archie, unless you have any parting words for our listeners?
No, just keep listening, keep getting the word out there. You guys are just the biggest part of this show as me and Nate are. Otherwise, we'd be talking to each other and nobody else, which is okay. I don't mind talking to Nate.
Yeah, same. That's what I was about to say. That's fine. We can do that too.
But remember to always leave the gun and take the cannolis.
And do check us out on any podcast platform. Let your friends know about the show. Let your family know about the show. What the fuck are you doing over here? Let people know about the show. And if you do prefer to listen to your podcast on YouTube, maybe you're already listening to this on YouTube, but if you're listening on a podcast app and you prefer to listen to your podcast on YouTube, you can check the show out there as well on the WNR Podcast Network page. So, with that being said, we will sign off. We will see you next week. Season 1, Episode 11. Nobody Knows Anything. Shit's about to get popping, folks, on The Sopranos. Right. And we'll see you next week.
Good night, everybody.